Late at night outside a train station, three thugs knocked out a man who was sleeping soundly. They always robbed people without killing them, but they never expected that the man they met today would be completely broke. They searched through his suitcase and found nothing of value except an old radio. The man's poverty made these robbers, who prided themselves on their principles, want to kill him anyway. They hit the man hard one more time, then walked away without a care for whether he lived or died. But nobody expected that the thugs' blow wouldn't kill the man. Instead, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, setting him on a path to a happy life. A long time later, the unconscious man woke up needing to pee. He stumbled to the station restroom but passed out again from blood loss. A security guard found him and immediately called for help. By the time the man arrived at the hospital, he was close to death. The doctors tried to revive him, but eventually, his heart stopped beating. The doctors declared the patient dead, but after everyone had left, the man miraculously sat up. He straightened his broken nose and then walked out of the hospital. When people found him the next day, he had collapsed by the seaside. A homeless man stole his shoes, but luckily, the man wasn't dead. He was discovered by two passing boys, and their father brought him back to their home to recover. The man who saved him, Walter, was a local poor man. His whole family was crammed into a rundown shipping container, and they didn't even have enough to eat. Seeing that the man was badly injured, Walter had his wife cook him a bowl of porridge. Although they didn't know where this stranger had come from, this kind-hearted couple decided to let him stay until he recovered. After several days of careful care from Walter's wife, the man slowly regained consciousness. He could talk and smoke, but he couldn't remember anything about his past. He couldn't even recall his own name. He had become a man without memories. One day, Walter came home from work looking animated. He had changed into a clean suit and said he was taking the man out to eat. The man happily followed him, but when they arrived, the man realized that Walter's idea of eating out was actually standing in line for a charity meal. It turned out to be a local welfare center's weekly Friday charity lunch, perhaps because the man's face was unfamiliar. When it was his turn to get food, a female employee at the welfare center stared at him for a long time. After eating, Walter took the man to a bar. He had gotten paid that day. He ordered 2 beers and wanted to drink with the man, but it turned out the man wasn't interested in alcohol at all. Seeing the man's rough hands, Walter guessed he must have done manual labor before. On the way home, a tipsy Walter had a sudden idea. He picked up a stick and tried to jog the man's memory by reenacting the scene. Perhaps scared by Walter's behavior, the man decided not to go back that night. He went alone to the seaside and sat there all night. But the next day, he was found by a local security officer. The officer told him this was a private beach, and if he wasn't a local resident, fishing here would land him in jail. Seeing that the man couldn't provide any identification, the officer kindly offered him 2 choices. Either come with him to the police station for questioning, or rent his ocean view room for €100 a month. The man chose the latter without hesitation. But when he got to the room, he found that the so-called ocean view room was just another shipping container. The officer gave him a week to come up with the rent. If he didn't pay on time, he would set his hunting dog on him. Although the approach was a bit harsh, the man at least had a place to stay. The next day, he gave the place a thorough cleaning. Walter helped him hire an electrician to do the wiring, and gave him some unwanted furniture. After arranging everything, the man planted potatoes by the door. It was clear he intended to stay here for a while. Another Friday came. After getting his charity meal, the man voluntarily started a conversation with the female welfare center employee. They hit it off. The man learned her name was Emma. Emma also gave him the address of her workplace. She told him that if he ever encountered any difficulties, he could come to the welfare center to find her. Emma's kindness gave the man hope for the future. He tore off the bandages on his head and decided to find a job. But finding a job required filling out a resume. He knew nothing about his past, which put the employment service center staff in a difficult position. After being rejected, the downtrodden man followed the address to the welfare center. He confessed his situation to Emma. Emma thoughtfully picked out an outfit for him, then went to the director and arranged a job for him at the welfare center. The new job didn't pay much, but at least he had an income. That night, the security officer came to collect the rent. He had brought his so-called hunting dog, but the man had just found a job and couldn't afford to pay. The officer unleashed the dog and told it to bite him, but this dog was clearly just a pet. Seeing that the threat didn't work, the security officer prepared to take matters into his own hands. The man quickly pleaded with the officer to give him another week. He had found a job and would get paid next week. The officer reluctantly agreed, but on one condition: the man had to watch his dog for a month.
Onko sillä nimi? Hannibal.
Soon, the next Friday arrived. After a week of hard work, the man received his first paycheck. Although it wasn't as much as the regular employees made, it was enough to pay his rent. To thank Emma for her help, he lingered after work that day, waiting until Emma got off work to thank her in person. When he learned that Emma had to walk home alone at night, he offered to walk her home. Faced with his kind offer, Emma hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. As they chatted, they soon arrived at Emma's doorstep. Emma thanked him for walking her home, but just as they were about to part, the man launched his tried and true move.
Sinulla on roska silmässä.
En tunne mitään.
Se on vasta menossa. Aina kun katson.
Although the lines were cheesy, Emma, who had been single for a long time, had never heard anything like them before.
Varastit suudelman.
Olen pahoillani. En ole herrasmies.
She also had feelings for this man, but at that moment, she wasn't ready to face it all just yet. After they parted, Emma went home and started practicing her makeup. The man paid a month's rent as promised. Then, the man invited Emma to his place for dinner. He had specially bought steak, but because he didn't know how to cook, he accidentally added too much salt. Although the dinner was a failure, the two of them, who had feelings for each other, successfully became a couple that night. Soon, the potatoes outside the man's door sprouted. Life seemed to be heading in a good direction, until one day, he happened to see the sparks of welding on the dock across the water. A strong sense of familiarity drew him closer. He asked the foreman to let him try. To everyone's surprise, he laid down the legendary fish scale weld. Seeing this, the foreman eagerly invited the man to work for his company. The pay was good, but to receive it, he needed a bank account. So, under the guidance of the company supervisor, the man went to open an account at a bank. But shortly after he walked in, an armed man burst in. He was there to rob the bank, but unlike other robbers, he didn't wear a mask or try to take extra. He only wanted $247,600, not a cent more. After getting the money, the robber locked the teller and the man in the vault. Soon, the alarm sounded. The two were taken to the police station for questioning. The teller gave his statement and left quickly, but the man was detained because he didn't know his own name, even though all evidence pointed to his innocence. Because he refused to cooperate with the investigation, the man was sentenced to 3 months in prison. Losing his memory had somehow become a crime. Just as he was at his wit's end, a lawyer walked in. It turned out Emma had learned of his situation and hired a defense attorney for him. Although the man was eventually acquitted with the lawyer's help, the fact that he still couldn't remember his past left him unhappy. That night, he went to a bar to drown his sorrows, but unexpectedly, he ran into the man who had robbed the bank. Learning of the trouble he had caused the man, the robber apologized. He then told his own story. It turned out he wasn't a professional thief. He was a construction contractor who had been wronged by this very bank. After some failed investments, he couldn't repay his loans, and the bank seized all of his construction equipment. They bought it at a rock-bottom price, then sold it for 3 times that, feeling cheated. So he decided in anger to rob the bank of what he believed was rightfully his. After explaining all this, the robber asked the man to do him a favor. They went to the robber's place. The robber handed over all the cash he had stolen. It turned out he hadn't stolen it for himself. Since his company went under, he had been unable to pay his workers' wages for months. Now, he wanted to settle those debts, but he couldn't bear to face his former employees, so he asked the man to do it for him. As compensation, he would give the man a portion of the money. The workers' wages and addresses were already organized. After learning the whole story, the man took on the task, but he had barely walked away when a gunshot rang out from the room. Although the client was dead, the man kept his word. He delivered all the back wages into the hands of the workers. After finishing this task, he returned to his home, exhausted. But soon, the local police came knocking. It turned out his identity had been confirmed. His name was Andrew. He was a well-known welder at a shipyard in another province. He had a wife and a family, but strangely, his wife had never reported him missing after all this time. With this question in mind, Andrew decided to go back and see. On the night before his departure, he met Emma again. Although she knew this might be their last meeting, Emma remained very understanding. She bought him a train ticket, packed his bags, and even made him a sandwich. Despite his reluctance, the man set off on his way home. Following the address the police gave him, he arrived at a villa. The door was opened by a young woman. Although they hadn't seen each other in months, Andrew could tell there was no joy on this woman's face. After some conversation, Andrew learned that this woman was indeed his legal wife, but their marriage had long since become a sham, because Andrew used to gamble and drink heavily. After several heated arguments, they had been living apart. Although they hadn't divorced, each had started a new life. Andrew had gone south to find work, and his wife had started a new family of her own. As they were talking, the wife's current boyfriend came home. Finding a former husband at here, the boyfriend proposed a duel with Andrew, but Andrew thought it was completely unnecessary. Their marriage was already over in all but name. His only request now was that the boyfriend treat his ex-wife well, because they had once loved each other. After saying goodbye to them, Andrew boarded the train back south once more, back to where his sprouting potatoes were, back to the lover waiting for him. The former Andrew might have been a drunk and a compulsive gambler, but no matter how bad his past was, from the moment he started facing life positively, none of that mattered anymore.